Plato's Meno recounts a dialogue on the nature of virtue between Socrates and his pupil Meno, a rising star among the leaders of ancient Greece. They discuss how virtue can be recognized, where it comes from, and whether it can be taught. Meno visits Socrates in Athens, and Meno had previously studied with the sophist philosopher Gorgias. Meno asks Socrates for his views on virtue. Socrates declares that the Thessalians, once known only for their wealth and horsemanship, now have eclipsed even Athens in their wisdom. This, Socrates says, is largely due to Gorgias, who has trained the Thessalians in the habit of answering questions in a grand and bold style. Socrates pleads ignorance of the nature of virtue and claims that no one else knows what it is. Meno says that Gorgias taught him about virtue, after which Socrates asks him to elaborate on that. Meno declares that a man should know how to administer a state and that a woman should manage a house and obey her husband. Likewise, the young and old, the free and enslaved, each also have their distinct virtues. Socrates replies that Meno has sent him a swarm of virtues and that, like bees, each is different. Yet there must be something that bees have in common. Socrates suggests that virtues too must have a common quality. Socrates suggests that the virtue of governance must include justice. Meno concurs by saying justice is virtue. Socrates asks whether justice is the only virtue or one of many. Meno repeats that there are many virtues. Socrates asks for examples, and Meno suggests courage, temperance, wisdom, and magnanimity. Socrates states that if someone said that round is figure, he would correct them by saying that round is a figure, one of many. Likewise, if someone were to say that whiteness is color, he would correct them and say that whiteness is a color, one of many. In this sense, justice is virtue must be amended to read justice is a virtue, again one of many. The goal then is to discover the quality common to all figures and to all colors, and similarly the quality common to all virtues. Then Socrates suggests virtue as being the desire of things honorable and the power of attaining them. Socrates asks whether those who desire the honorable also desire the good. Meno agrees with that statement. Socrates wonders whether anyone desires evil and argues that anyone who realizes that what they desire will lead to evil results for them will reject that path. Thus, all people desire the good, but some people believe wrongly in the goodness of paths that turn out to be evil. In this respect, all people are virtuous because all people desire things honorable and the power of attaining them. Virtue, suggests Socrates, isn't the desire for the good but the power to attain it. However, this must be achieved piously and justly. Thus, refusing to acquire honors dishonestly is itself an example of virtue. What matters more than the outcome is the justice and honesty of the pursuit. Meno asks how they can look into the question of virtue if they know nothing about the topic and therefore can't recognize the answer. Socrates replies that the human soul is immortal and experiences reincarnation over and over and has long since learned everything, and that questions about reality find answers through a process of recollection. This is the theory of anamnesis that Socrates advocates, which I've made a separate video on. Then Socrates offers to return to the question of the nature of virtue, but Meno wants instead to learn how virtue is acquired, whether naturally or by instruction or in some other manner. Socrates must suggest a hypothesis about virtue, that virtue is or is not knowledge, and then test that hypothesis. If virtue is knowledge, then it can be taught, because knowledge obviously can be taught. He and Meno agree that virtue is profitable if it is helpful and not hurtful. A man with no sense but plenty of courage will come to harm, but a person with sense will be wisely courageous. Thus, good outcomes depend on wisdom, and people are good not by birth but according to the wisdom of their actions. Otherwise, it would be a simple matter to pick out the good people and raise them in seclusion until they are ready for service. Virtue then relies on wisdom, and wisdom can be taught. It appears, therefore, that virtue can be taught. However, Socrates says that he is unable to locate any teachers of virtue. He turns to Meno and asks if he has found any gentlemen who offer to teach virtue. Meno replies that his own teacher, Gorgias, laughs at the notion and insists instead that men should simply learn oration. They agree that there is a great deal of controversy among philosophers, teachers, and poets as to whether virtue can be taught at all. Given the confusion, Socrates and Meno infer that virtue isn't a subject that can be transmitted by instruction. Socrates then asks how correct behavior can be acquired. He suggests two ways: experience and opinion. The person who has traveled to a city knows the way from experience, and the man who hasn't but figures out where the city must be knows the way from opinion. Opinions, however, tend to be forgotten, whereas knowledge obtained from experience is chained to the soul's recollection of the truth. If opinions aren't grounded in knowledge, and if knowledge cannot be taught but must be recollected, then virtue itself can't be taught. Therefore, Socrates and Meno conclude virtue must be a gift of God, and that great leaders act and speak greatly, not because of what they know, but because of a quality of the divine within them. To know for sure, says Socrates, they must discern the actual nature of virtue, perhaps at another time, and so the dialogue ends here.